Crowhill here. Today we review an amber ale and discuss an early 20th century German novella.
Well,
hey, good evening, Pigweed, and good evening, Longinus.
All right. How about some beer and conversation,
that sounds
guys?
like a great idea. So, what's on your mind?
Gustav,
Yeah?
the Lido, Tadzio, and some Poles.
I see. It must be time for P&C's Shortcut to the Classics.
Well, yes, it is, where we read great books by the world's great authors, provided that they aren't too long.
Not too long. And today, Longinus has chosen Death in Venice by Thomas Mann.
Okay, well, before we get into that, let's get into this.
Yeah, what do we got here?
So this is a seasonal. This is Nugget Nectar by Troegs.
Troegs, Pennsylvania boys.
And, yes. And so... it's a 7.5. It's an Imperial Amber.
Okay.
Now it looks and acts like an IPA.
Right.
What would you expect to be different if they chose not to call it that? If they chose the category of Imperial Amber rather than IPA.
I would expect much less assertive hops.
All right.
Because amber is going to be less hoppy, and an IPA is usually hoppy, at least American IPAs. So that's what I'm expecting.
Right, and maybe a little more maltiness than you would get on some most IPAs.
Yeah, most IPAs.
Although that gives you some lots of information about all of the hops that are used. Go ahead and get in there.
Yeah, there's some good hop aroma going on.
All right, we've got Nugget, Warrior, Tomahawk, Simcoe, Palisade. So there's a real hop fest.
It's not hoppy.
Yeah, it's got a lot of hop aroma. There's not as much hop bitterness.
Right.
God,
that's true.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, that smells good.
So it does. It's good. It's malty. You know, the thing is with IPAs, there's East Coast, there's English, there's West Coast, there's...
Yeah, if you told me this was an East Coast IPA, I'd say, that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. But it's very good.
It's really good. Yeah, it just came out, and it's got a drink by date because they want you to drink it fresh because of all the hops.
Yeah, because if you let it sit too long, it's going to lose a lot of that hop aroma. So yeah. All right, fantastic.
All right.
Well done, boys. Send us some more.
Okay, very good, very good. So we have Death in Venice by Thomas Mann, probably.
Something like that.
Let's get a little background on the book and the author, and then we'll jump into it.
Sure.
Longinus, you got any info?
Sure. I got a quick bio. Thomas Mann was born in 1875 and died in 1955. He was born in Lübeck, Germany, but lived most of his life in Munich from 1891 to 1933. In 1933, he leaves for Switzerland because of the rise of Hitler. Mm-hmm. And then in 1939... he goes to Princeton, New Jersey.
How do you know?
And in 1942, I believe it is, he becomes a U.S. citizen. In 1941, he moves to Los Angeles.
Did not know that.
No, 1939, he moves to U.S. 1944 becomes a U.S. citizen. In 1942, moves to Los Angeles. But then he moves back to Switzerland in 1952 and dies in 1955.
Oh, so he did go back to the old country.
Yeah.
What kind of education?
Well, he did graduate college.
Okay, because a lot of our others did not graduate college.
And he was pretty much from an upper class family. Mm-hmm. His aunt and a couple other folks were writers, and his brother was a writer, and some of his children, he had 6 children, 3 or 4 of them were writers too. So it was a very intellectual family. Mm-hmm. He gets married in 1905 to a wealthy Jew. That's how they say it.
And that explains
why you got out of
Germany.
I mean, get out anyway, but especially if you're married to a Jew. Yeah.
And then, so his literary career. I mean, he was very disciplined, but his life was really based on reading and writing. You know, he would wake up in the morning and spend 3 or 4 or 5 hours writing, and then he would spend the afternoon probably doing his correspondences and letters and reading and that kind of thing. So,
do you think is this? I think the first time I heard of him was reference to Magic Mountain, but is this his biggie? Is this what he's most known for?
I would say Magic. I mean, I would believe Magic Mountain would be, but I'm not sure.
But it was a hit, right?
But this is absolutely a hit. Yeah. And Magic Mountain, was sort of a book that takes on some of the intellectual themes, not the plot or setting themes of this. So so in 1893, he gets his first short story, starts writing short stories, publishes in 1898. 1901, Buddenbrooks come out. That's his novel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's extremely popular.
Right.
Makes him very famous, and he has another Royal Highness in 1909, Death in Venice in 1912, and then The Magic Mountain in 1924, and then he wins the Nobel Prize in 1929. And in 1947, he does his version of Dr. Faustus. And so that's sort of what he was. He was an intellectual. He did a lot of anti-Nazi radio broadcasts when he was in Switzerland. They got, the Gestapo all mad at him. And then, so he was outspoken. He was a very respected intellectual at the time. But, I think he didn't, travel the world. He wasn't a Jack London. Yeah. And he was a very, great German intellectual.
It sounds that there are some characteristics resembling our protagonist.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he seems to have a lot of the same features. So
there's an element of autobiography.
Yes, exactly. And so this is third person, limited omniscience. Right, so you only really have access to his thoughts and seeing you see the whole book really through his eyes. And in fact, I don't think there's a scene that he's not in. Right?
And if you really think about it, the dialogue. I mean, if you took all the dialogue and put it in one place, it might be 3 pages?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Very little.
Right.
The rest of it is just
psychological. It's very what's going on inside his head, and there's very little interaction. Like he's just looking, mostly watching, and not really interacting. So let's
who's our friend on In Our Time, the host of In Our Time? Because he said. Man never uses one adjective when he can use 5.
yeah. Oh, it's very dense. Yes, that's for sure. Yeah. That's good. So, all right. So I think let's go chapter by chapter. And who is our protagonist, and what do we know about him in this first chapter?
Yeah, Gustav von Aschenbach, and von means something apparently, like a title or something, right?
Right. Because we find out that not only is he a famous writer. He has been recently knighted. Yeah. So maybe that's where the Vaughn comes in.
Maybe that's where the Vaughn is. Yeah, I don't know.
But so our protagonist is a famous writer, lonely, solitary.
His wife has died.
And he is, he doesn't hide anything. There's no spoiler alert in the title. So there's Death in Venice, and it opens with him peering into a cemetery, right? There's a cemetery in the opening scene, and he sees some interesting-looking dude.
Oh yeah, that was kind of weird. This guy had a very strange face, and there are a lot of strange descriptions of this.
Yes, I mean he identifies him as not a Bavarian. He's a foreigner.
Yeah.
By his clothes, by his features, by his gums, he's really eyeballing this guy, who finally stares him down.
Yeah.
Right. And then he kind of withdraws. But to me, that scene sort of lets the reader know that he has this artist's eye, that he has a keen perception of other people, that he just, he wouldn't just casually look at somebody.
Yeah.
He would see them and then analyze them.
Yeah, and even before
because
that...
you think that character's going to be important, but it's really, I think it tells you something about Gustav.
Yes, and even before that, there was when he was up looking at the church, and he was looking at these gold letters and writing on the outside of the church. Yeah. And for some time as he stood waiting, he found a grave diversion in spelling out the formulas and letting his mind's eye lose itself in their transparent mysticism. So he was a very observant person,
yes,
and also somebody who had an artistic sensibility, so that he didn't just observe things coldly and logically.
Yeah.
He got into the heart of it.
He really did. And
and I mean, that's one of the reasons for chapter 1, I think, is to introduce him as an artist, but also to introduce what is an artist. It's somebody who has to be keenly observant. You know, and I also think it starts to introduce him that as an observer, he is not he's less of a participant. In life.
Yeah, that is good. I like this section right here where he had restrained and chilled his emotions. It says toward the end of chapter 1. And then he said, were these enslaved emotions now taking their vengeance on him? And that was a bit of foreshadowing.
That was a bit of foreshadowing. And now, how is it that this I guess that stirring feeling, he's like, you know what? I need to go travel somewhere. I need to. It's almost like Longinus. It's almost like the hero's call to adventure. That, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't know. I don't think the hero pattern exactly
doesn't
continue very far. But he is sort of called. And in his mind, he starts going to these like exotic jungles and things. And he's like, well, you know what? I've never really left Europe. So, and he's too reserved to go, to India. So he's just like, all right, how about if I just go to Croatia?
Well, I'll say something about that later. How reserved was his decision?
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So, so there he goes. He says, so somehow this encounter with the stranger inspires in him the need for adventure and travel.
Yeah.
And he goes to this island in Croatia, right?
Yeah.
And although, hold on, chapter 2 is where we get background on the guy, right? So we find out about what he's famous for. He's famous for writing about Frederick the Great, King of Prussia, and
I like this part right here. His forebears, men who had led severe, steady lives, serving their king, their state.
Right.
And then it said a deeper strain of spirituality had been manifest in them once in the person of a preacher. The preceding generation had brought a brisker, more sensuous blood into the family through the author's mother, a daughter of a Bohemian bandmaster.
There you go.
So you get this sense of duality and kind of conflict internally.
Right. That's great because he's got this the Bohemian artistic side, but he's got a bunch of civil servants who by the book.
Yes.
Both
tendencies are struggling there.
And so he's famous for writing these heroic characters and sort of nationalistic pride and he said he just really didn't have he's in poor health. And somebody said about him. They say Aschenbach.
Yeah,
go ahead.
All right, and the speaker. You see, Aschenbach has always lived like this, and the speaker contracted his fingers of his left hand into a fist. Never like this, and he let his open hand droop comfortably from the arm of his chair.
Right. So that's our guy. He's kind of
wound
tight.
Up.
Yes, he's kind of tight. He's also in poor health.
Yeah.
He didn't even attend school regularly with the other kids. So but carrying through, soldiering on. That's sort of his motto.
The primary requirement was discipline.
Right.
He would start the day early, dashing cold water over his chest and back.
Right. Well, there's what's the line about genius? Is 1% inspiration and
99% perspiration.
Right. So I think that's him. Right. Yeah. He's like the artist really isn't as carefree. Like you think. Like an artist's mind. Well, really. As an artist, you have to be disciplined also. And he leans way on the discipline side. And so here, let me share with you everything we know about his family.
Okay.
The marriage, which, when still young, he had contracted with a girl of an educated family, came to an end with her death after a short period of happiness. He was left with a daughter, now married. He never had a son. Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
That's everything you know about his family life.
Because it doesn't really matter so much.
No, right? He's just like, all right, so that happened, and so you assume that he's lonely. So we have a little description right after that: below average height, dark, smooth shaven, head a bit too large, hair brushed straight back, thinning towards the crown. full around the temples.
And that's going to become relevant later on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
What does he have? Some gold spectacles.
He inclined toward the fixed and standardized, the conventionally elegant, the conservative, the formal, the formulated nearly.
Okay. So right. So there's chapter 2. It sort of backs up, gives you, description, disposition.
Right.
His literary history,
right,
whatever, and then chapter 3. That's when he gets to the island or the island off in the Adriatic.
Right.
For some reason, he thinks that he's heard this was pretty cool.
Pola,
and why does he find that not to his satisfaction?
I don't remember the details.
It says rain and a heavy atmosphere.
Okay.
He got a bad vibe, and he's like, dang it. He'd been to Venice before. So he says, darn it, I'm just going to get on the gangplank and go to Venice. As you see by that little map I had out there, this looks like that's quite a jaunt. What I mean?
It's a bit over the water there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he gets on there, and he's talking. So he describes the second-class passengers and group of travelers, but then he has a bad experience. So, right, there's a group of rowdy young folks.
Yeah, which youth and all its vitality.
All its vitality, right? They're all excited about they're right. Yes, it's like spring break, right?
And he's the staid, orderly, disciplined guy.
But then he discovered with a kind of horror that the youth was a cheat. And it really upset him.
Right. One of the youths was a cheat. Right?
One of the youths was a cheat. There were wrinkles around his eyes and mouth. Faint crimson on his cheek was paint. You know what I mean? That ruddy complexion. No.
He had a wig on.
He had a wig. His neck was hollow and stringy. Fascinated with loathing he was about this guy. And now, so what do you think? Why did that upset him so much?
Because it was an old man trying to be young.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not where.
No, Gustav is a distinguished man who's okay with his middle age. Right?
I think it's a very important passage because it shows his connection to the correct, the normal path, the traditional.
Right.
An old man is supposed to behave one way, youth can act one way, but when you're old, it's very much he's sticking to. This is the way things are done.
Right.
This is the standard, expected, normal, ordinary path, and this guy's cheating it by pretending to be young when he's not.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, and
I don't know. I see a 70-year-old guy at a Grateful Dead concert, and I'm thinking, I look like you're having fun, but come on.
And then you realize, well, wait a minute, I'm a few years from that.
I have no problem with older people having fun. The problem is when they pretend that they're young.
And that's what disgusts me.
Right, I think Neil Young said it best. It's better to burn out than fade away.
So he, all right, so that irritates the heck out of him. And he gets across to the other side, and then he has this terrible interaction with the gondola guy.
Right.
He
picks the one gondola guy in the whole fleet who's not licensed.
He's not licensed, and he's like, all right, how much does it cost? He's like, you'll pay.
No, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Now he's in a boat. Tell me how much it costs.
And now he's thinking to himself, with a couple of strokes to the back of my head, you'll send me down to Hades. So in his mind, he's thinking, he might.
This guy might kill him.
He just might get killed, and then when he gets to the other side, then the other gondola guys are like, that guy.
Yeah, you don't trust that guy.
And so he didn't pay him, right?
He didn't pay him at all.
I think he tossed him a little coin.
Because, he had to go, get change or something. And then when he came back, the guy was gone because he wasn't licensed and somebody was about to catch him.
Right, the police the police were there waiting for him.
I see. That's why not right. He got run off as the unlicensed gondola guy.
Yeah.
So the Lido is actually a strip of beach. So, if you're going to go to hang out at the beach, you're not in Venice proper. Venice is the canals and all. But the Lido is that little strip of land, and that's where he's staying. Right?
So he can walk to the beach from his hotel.
Yes. Yeah. That was the idea. Right? That was the idea to go into the island. In the first place, the idea, he just wants to check out the beach. So he, this is as part of his, powers of observation and such.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that he's alone. The experiences of a man who lives alone and in silence are both vaguer and more penetrating than those of people in society. His thoughts are heavier, more odd, and always touched with melancholy. So that kind of set, so he's not going there to party and meet chicks.
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
But, he is a man of observation and used to being alone. And so anyway, he gets to the hotel.
Has a nice room, settles in, they respect him, give him a good place.
And then goes down and he observes, there were Americans there, Russian families, English ladies, German children with French nurses, and the Slavic element seemed to predominate.
Yeah.
Polish was being spoken nearby.
Yeah.
And then...
That was important.
Yeah.
And then he kind of introduces the next character who really isn't a character at all, but can be considered a character. And in my translation, which is probably different from yours,
right.
He's talking about the whole family here.
Yeah.
It was a group of adolescent and barely adult young people sitting around a cane table under the supervision of a governess or companion, 3 young girls of 15 to 17 as it seemed, and a long-haired boy of about 14. With astonishment, Ossenbach noticed that the boy was entirely beautiful.
Oh boy!
Now see, I'm surprised that you're.
I don't get any ages.
I don't get a number. Where are you? Because
I don't either. I can't even follow where you are.
And I've heard people say that there's dispute about how old Tadzio was.
This is chapter 3.
Okay.
Midway in chapter 3.
Continued? Well, I don't know. So I don't remember getting a number. And I honestly pictured him much younger than that.
Much younger. So we'll get to that later. So hold on.
We could talk about,
the sheer, resolute from his beautiful hair like Prince Charming's that fell over in curls over his forehead. And a long-haired boy about 14 years old. With astonishment, Aschenbach noted that the boy was absolutely beautiful.
So yours does say 14.
Okay. Well, we have the same translation, so it must be.
So it must be in mine. Somehow I skipped over
I
it.
certainly did. I did not, and I went through the whole book thinking he was much younger. But
yes.
Anyway, that's the first taste. Calls him Prince Charming. Notice how pale he is.
Yeah.
In a good way, but also he's like, did he have some illness? For his skin stood out as white as ivory against the golden curls of the golden darkness of the surrounding curls. So here we go.
This is where it starts.
Right. This is where it starts.
And the first thing he does is intellectualize it. In my translation, he's talking about seeing the boy. It recalled Greek sculpture of the noblest period, yet despite the purest formal perfection, it has such unique personal charm that he who now contemplated it felt he had never beheld in nature or in art anything so consummately successful. So I mean, so all of a sudden he sees it, and his mind goes right to the great Greek ideal of
exactly.
beauty.
So at this point, I am giving him a pass, and I'm going.
Sure.
It's like, I mean, if I saw Michelangelo's David, I would say, my God, that is beautiful. I mean, that is beauty, right? Not in a homoerotic way, just like that is beautiful. Yeah. And he, as an artist, as a fan of Greek myth and Greek mythology, to see a very handsome young man, identify him in that way. Yeah. I'm going, okay, that's just like an artist's eye. We've already seen his keen perception and that kind of thing.
He's already set up, the author has already set up that this guy's very observant, that he recognizes art primarily, and that now he's in this intellectual appreciation of art phase. So it's a very important transition that's about to happen.
Yeah, and in a way, that's his life, that's his discipline, that's his order. The idea of being an artist, being observant, being in total control, and an ardent as somebody who is watching and not participating.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
So now well, I don't know how yours is divided up, Longinus, but we got part 3 and part 3 continued.
Yeah, that's
Oh no, I don't.
You just have all part 3?
I don't know why they broke it up.
I don't
like
either.
that.
So,
Just to make it
however, in
quite so
part
long.
3, so he's already talking about the foul smell of the lagoon. He remembers that he had abandoned Venice in a previous time, and he's just sitting around, and the boy's not there. He's not right. The girls are there. That he with their stiff little outfits on, and he calls them the nuns later on.
Yes.
But the boy's missing.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he shows up. Oh no! He says to himself, "Well, little Phaeacian, you seem to be enjoying the pleasant privilege of having your sleep out. So Oh, here he comes, a little sleepyhead." Right? So all right.
Something's weird's going.
Mom does a great job of sort of teasing this out.
I thought this was a transitional passage here. Aschenbach was again astonished, terrified even,
Oh boy,
by the really godlike beauty of this human child.
right.
Right. But we all have those experiences of daydreaming. I mean, not for us. I don't think it's of a 14-year-old boy, but seeing a 22-year-old young lady on the beach, you're like, wow, she's really pretty. The next thing you know, you're daydreaming.
Well, actually, that's a very important point. Why?
Because he's daydreaming.
We'll have to get to this in a bit, but why did he choose this kind of attraction versus attraction to a beautiful young woman?
Yep.
So we'll have to talk about that later.
Yes. So he tries to keep it very academic.
Yeah.
And he kind of convinces the reader for a little while that it is.
Didn't convince me for a minute. But,
Okay.
but anyway, yes.
I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for, when this.
This was about the point where I was ready to throw this novel in the trash can.
He's keeping it on an intellectual or artistic or the ideal of beauty level.
Yeah.
Not because he's trying. He's doing it because that's what he does. He's an artist.
He does it, but there's also, to me, a hint of trying to convince himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
He's like, I'm attracted to him, but of course, not that kind of way.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yes, well, that's why I wasn't fooled by it.
You saw right through his.
It's like,
but
who are you
as
kidding?
far as the writing goes, I mean, he is doing a good job of giving you the sense that. Although he says he is very frail, he is sickly. In all probability, he will not grow old. And so there's something about, like the capturing the youth. That Marilyn Monroe dying at 27 or what do you know what I mean? Like there's. It's almost like he wants that to be the case, and also here's.
I think there's a deeper, darker significance to that place where he says he's sickly, he's not going to grow old.
Yeah,
because basically that is part of the justification in his mind. I can destroy this kid's life and it won't matter because he won't grow up anyway.
Ooh, dark, but I like it. Venice is always, to me, very light and, attractive, right? Beautiful and interesting and all of that.
That's something else. Maybe this is the time to say this. See, Venice had a reputation at that time. Homosexuality was out against the law in all of Europe.
Right.
But there were certain sanctuary cities, if you might put it that way, where it was sort of accepted, where people would go for these kinds of encounters. And Venice was one of those places.
Okay, very interesting. Well, but as far as the environment, think of it as, sunny and pleasant, but an offensive sultriness lay over the streets. The air was so heavy that the smells pouring out of homes, stores, and eating houses became mixed with oil, vapors, clouds of perfume, and other odors. And these would not blow away, but hung in layers. Cigarette smoke remained suspended, disappearing very slowly. The crush of people along the narrow streets irritated rather than entertained the walker. he does this. He calls him the Walker. He calls him the Watcher. Mm-hmm. He calls him, like he's starting to like lose identity.
Yeah.
And Venice just sounds kind of gross.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting point I missed. That he is transitioning how he's describing himself. Yeah.
And you know what? And then he says he decides to leave. Right? He's like, all right. Mm-hmm. This place is unhealthy. I've been here before.
That's right.
I got driven out last time because it was gross, and it just has a bad vibe. So, all right, guys. I just think I'm going to leave.
And he has a hard time. Well, he doesn't. He's sort of reluctant to leave. There's obviously
he goes back and forth.
Yeah. I love the conflict, and then he actually sees. He finally figures out the boy's name is Tadzio. And goodbye, Tadzio, he thought. I did not see much of you. So he seems kind of okay. God bless you, he's added.
Yeah.
So, but he is willing to leave. And then what? Then why doesn't he leave?
Well,
his trunk gets lost.
To the wrong place. Yeah.
Right. So he's like, well, I'm going to stay here until you bring it back.
Yeah, he's like, and then it's sort of like...
grasp hold of that as an excuse.
It's sort of like fake angry.
Yes.
It's like, oh, darn it, does that mean I have to go back to that hotel with that handsome boy?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I have to do what I got to do.
Exactly. Yes.
And he goes back and he settles in and, he's kind of, well, maybe I'll give this another go.
Right.
And then he only has one set of clothes, right? Because his bag isn't back.
Yeah.
And then he goes down to dinner and waits for Tadzio to show up.
Yeah. So this reminds me. I guess this is the right time to say it. This reminds me of Proverbs chapter 7.
Okay.
All right. For at the window of my house I looked out through my lattice, and I saw among the naive and discerned among the youths a young man lacking sense, passing through the street near her corner, her being an adulteress. And he takes the way to her house, in the twilight, in the evening, in the middle of the night, and in the darkness. And behold, a woman comes out to meet him, dressed as a harlot and cunning of heart. It goes on about how he's basically... This in Proverbs chapter 7, this guy's putting himself in this situation. He's lazy, he's like distracted, he's bored, he's walking around, he doesn't know what to do. He decides, well, I'll just walk down near that house,
Well,
I'm just walking around. I'm going to walk down by that house. Right. And then he gets ensnared. And that becomes the death of him in Proverbs chapter 7. And this whole thing
You're right.
reminds me exactly of this, because first of all, Venice was a place known for this. He knew it going in.
Mm-hmm.
And when we just see this progressive, like allowing himself to be in that situation where he was tempted, and it eventually becomes his downfall.
Yeah,
totally.
But did he go there to be tempted, or because he went there as a disciplined artist.
Yeah,
he was going to be nothing but an observer of life.
Exactly,
and
but he did kind of indicate early on that, you know what I mean. Maybe I need to loosen up a little bit.
But yes, see, both those things are going on, and I think you're right to draw that out, because I think you self-justify these things. Mm-hmm. I'm not walking down 14th Street to meet a prostitute. I'm walking down 14th Street because I want to look at the architecture.
Yes. Right? And lo and behold,
here comes a prostitute. What a surprise. Yeah. So
I agree.
That's my sense of what's going on here.
Yeah. All right. So Do we have the first indications that there's disease in the air?
Oh, that's been going on. There's been hints at it for a little while,
but nothing overt.
Yeah, it becomes more and more obvious that there's disease. I think actually when he leaves Venice the first time, he gets a pretty clear indication that there's cholera, and his decision to go back is like, I'm going back despite the fact of the risk of cholera. So it's an interesting choice there.
You're right, because there's a funky, where is that? There's a funky smell in the air that turns out to be a disinfectant, right? Like it's and it's in the interest of the city to damp down any talk.
Of course, because it's all tourism money, and they don't want the tourists to leave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here in 4, he day after day now, the naked god with the hot cheeks drove his fire-breathing quadriga, which is looked up as a chariot, across the expanses of the sky, and his yellow locks fluttered in the assault of the east wind. I was like, all right.
That's an explicit reference to Apollo there.
Right. I mean, the sun, there's sunrise, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but the descriptions just get more, and less academic.
Yes.
And a little more, he came running wet perhaps out of the water, tossed back his curls, resting one hand on his leg and the other foot on... The boy was delightful. I like this one here. He goes, his armpits were still as smooth as those of a statue. The hollows of his knees glistened. I'm like, easy there, guy.
At this point, it's very obvious that the transition has been made.
Right.
It's gone from an academic appreciation of beauty to something more cynical.
Well, I mean, you're right, but there is... He does have that, but he also has incredible descriptions of beauty in its idealized form.
Yeah.
And here, a motto and mirror, his eyes embraced that noble figure of the blues water, and in rising ecstasy, he felt he was gazing on beauty itself, on form as a thought of God, on the one and the pure perfection which dwells in the spirit, and of the human image and likeness had here been lightly and graciously set upon for him to worship. So, in a way, that's a little bit of both, but he's still bringing this up to this highest idea.
I thought this was great. This is right after what you were reading. He says, for beauty, my Phaedrus, beauty alone is both lovely and visible at once. It is, mark me, the only form of the spiritual which we can receive through the senses. Yeah. And I thought that is an interesting insight. Right. Like, you think of spiritual as not having to do with this world. Yeah. But beauty is the only thing that is both spiritual and corporal.
Yeah, it's the physical mark that leads you to the transcendent.
It's a very important theme. This idea that truth and goodness are abstract intellectual concepts, right? But beauty is the place where a person encounters the divine, he would say.
Yes.
Beauty, you encounter the divine, but through your senses, through sight, through your body. And it's a very different experience. So beauty is the bridge between the human and the divine.
Right. And so here that's returning sort of back to the academic and the intellectual.
And that's sort of the Phaedrus.
Yes. But then what he's also saying is beauty is that, but it can also overwhelm. And this is where we get to the whole Apollo versus Dionysus thing, right? So like Apollo is reason, discipline, restraint, form, civilization. Dionysus is passion, intoxication, instinct, chaos, all that sort of thing. So he's talking about beauty in both senses. He's starting off talking about beauty in the Apollo sense, Apollonian sense, or whatever, right? As this way that we perceive the divine, or the way the divine connects with us is through beauty. But then it transitions into the Dionysian sense of overwhelming him. And,
becomes passionate and
out of control.
Right. Yeah. Now, so here at the end of 3, I'm like, all right, he's completely lost it here. Yeah. The smile, right? I don't know if the boy actually smiles at him or if he perceives the smile, but he had received the smile and he hurried away as though he had carried a fatal gift. And then it overwhelms him so much. He says, "You dare not smile like that. Listen, no one dare smile like that to another." And he threw himself down on the bench in a frenzy. So I'm like, dude, you have really lost it. And then the last sentence of the chapter, impossible, in this case, absurd, abject, ridiculous, and yet holy, even in this case, venerable. I love you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
come on.
Gustav, you have really... You have lost it. So that's it. That's okay. Yeah. That's the end of 4. Right. So 5 is more about the disinfectant, the recognition that this place is gross. This is what I found interesting, that the Germans and the Austrians had all left. Mm-hmm. And that he went to look at the newspapers, and all of their papers were gone. Yeah. Which had probably had information about the sickness.
To me, that was also a symbolic thing. Mm. When you think of Germans and Austrians, what do you think about? Orderly, right? So those people sensibly left because there was cholera. Right. So what was left behind? The people who weren't as sensible, the people who weren't being prudent and cautious.
Yes, and that there wasn't information in the local papers about the what do they call it? The Indian cholera. Mm.
Right, so there's the point when Gustav goes to the bar. He goes to the British mail delivery, or was it a bank? And the guy tells him exactly what's going on.
Yeah, right.
And he tells him that there's an epidemic going on here. He says
it can't be much more than a couple of days before a quarantine zone is declared. Yeah. Dude, you got to get out of there. And then he goes, what? Then in his mind, he's like, I know. I'm going to be the hero who delivers the news to the Polish family. Right. And he even practices it. He says, all right, this is what I'm going to say. Permit a foreigner, madam, to give you some useful advice. A warning, which is being withheld from you through self-interest. Leave immediately with Tadzio and your daughters. Venice is full of the plague. And then what does he do?
He doesn't do it.
No, he doesn't. He says, no, I'm not going to do it.
He doesn't do it. But then he has this weird orgiastic dream.
Yeah, at this point, it's just plain disturbing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I was wishing I had a fireplace.
And then he starts.
The orgiastic dream, though, is so embedded in Western culture and the myths and the stories of the Vikings and Bacchanalia.
Sure.
So all of that.
The Dionysian side of things. Yes.
Right. So that side is now taking over, but now he doesn't see the family at lunch, and he's like, oh my God, it's Sunday. They must be at church. So he stalks them.
Right. It's the church.
It's
really stalky now.
It's getting creepier and creepier.
Now it's just full blown creepy. Right. Yeah. And so, a couple of days later, now the Poles are leaving, and he finds out, he says, when? Well, after lunch. So they're playing, the family is on the beach before they leave, and he's sitting in his chair. Obviously, he's not feeling too good. Yeah. He's already come down with the...
He's caught it, right?
He's caught it, and, the watcher sat there. So now he's the watcher. As he had sat before, does Tadzio look back at him? Probably not, right? He probably just looks back.
He did look back.
In general.
One time when he was stalking him, the boy actually did look back at him. Oh, we forgot the part about him going into the barber and trying to look young again.
Oh, right. Yeah. I see. That harkens back to...
when he was talking about the cheat.
The cheat.
That's good, right.
So now he becomes the cheat.
Right.
He's trying to look younger to appeal to this boy.
Yeah. He's lost it.
Yeah. And then he dies in an act of leering at this boy. And so he's gone the full way. He's gone from, in the early part of the book, he's totally Apollo. Yeah. Rational, disciplined, everything. Right. And by the end of the book, he's totally Dionysius.
Yes. But he's not very good at that.
No.
He doesn't have any experience in being that guy. Yeah. And then when he decided to cut loose and let your feelings take over, he's just terrible at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
this raises so many things. There's so many things to talk about. Like there's the Apollo versus Dionysus thing. But there's also this question of what's the right balance between them. Right?
Is there a right balance?
Is there a right balance? Obviously I have to throw in a Star Trek reference, of course. So there's this episode called Return of the Archons, where there's this culture that's controlled by this computer, actually, but there's this culture that's extraordinarily orderly.
Right.
And they're like a bunch of the common image of Puritans, not the actual Puritans, but the common image of Puritans being everything is very staid and respectful.
Is this original Kirk?
Or yeah, original Kirk. Right. And then they have one night, like once a month or once or whatever, where they go crazy. Okay. And they have like this Bacchanalian festival. And it's like everything is horrible and, horrible things are going on. And then the next day they're back to being... So like that's one vision of trying to balance the two, is you do the one and then every once in a while you have to let it come out, right? And so that question, that's one of the questions that he's raising here, is what is the correct balance between this view of order and viewing beauty one way and getting overpowered by it?
Yeah. I was thinking about Mann's intention here. I was like, if he had, whether or not this novel gives you, like you're ready to throw it in the fire, like a certain ick, a little homo pedo vibe.
It was definitely ick for me.
Okay.
Definitely ick for me.
But let me give you real ick. So let's just say Thomas Mann has said, all right, we've got the repressed conservative middle-aged writer, recognizes how stuffy he is. He goes on vacation to let loose, falls in love with a teenager, finds his authentic self, dies tragically but free from the shackles of conformity and society. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that would be a celebration. But in this it's an unnatural obsession associated with illness and decay and disease. Yes. You know what I mean? It's not a celebration.
So I totally agree with you that from one perspective, it's a repudiation of this attraction. But you know what that reminds me of? She's an Easy Lover by Phil Collins. Because what's that song about? If you read the lyrics of the song,
all right,
it's about stay away from this woman. She's trouble. This is going to be the end of you. This is stupid. But you listen to the song. It's like she's an easy lover. Great. Give me your phone number. So that idea of having a message, like intellectually, the message of this book is this guy fell from reason into unreason and it killed him.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's not what it does artistically, in my opinion.
All right. What are you saying there, Longinus?
There's also the fact that Tadzio is not a piece of art.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He's a boy.
Right.
He's a piece of meat.
But he's not a piece of meat. He's a human being.
And Gustav is objectivizing
He's
him.
totally objectifying.
And putting everything upon him that he is not. And so that in and of itself really begins the quest of the questions of how far can art go with sort of replicating or experiencing or modeling life and of itself.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that's an extremely important point, that Tadzio has no agency at all.
No.
He's not even...
He doesn't even speak.
Right, yeah. No. He never says a word. He's just this object of his lust. And that's... It dehumanizes the boy.
It dehumanizes the boy, but in another sense, the boy's physical form, it sort of lights fire to Gustav's understanding of beauty.
Yeah.
And is beauty good or bad? What is, and you're talking about the Apollonian and Dionysian of all that and where does beauty lie, too? I mean, he talks a lot about it, and so does the dialogue Phaedrus. Is it in the object or is it in the observer of the object?
Yeah.
Where does, so is beauty relative? Well, I find her beautiful. Y'all might find her, thick.
When I thought of him as 8 or 9, to me, so if you're people watching and you're looking at people and somebody says, "Look at that! That is a beautiful little child there."
Yeah,
you're right. He that is a good looking kid.
Right.
if I'm sitting with somebody,
there's nothing gross about that.
And he points at somebody who's 14, and goes, "My God, that boy is beautiful." Like,
then you're starting to wonder.
I'm like,
yeah.
Well, he's almost a man. It's not really,
right.
you know what I mean?
What's going on with you, right? Yeah.
So that actually matters.
It does.
And I did not realize, because I heard that he was supposed to be 13 or 14, and I was getting ready to watch the 1971 Italian movie, and I saw the trailer on, and I'm like, he looks like he's 16. This is not the Tadzio that I had in my mind when I read the book. I haven't watched the movie, but I might.
So one thing,
you want to watch the movie with me?
No, I don't. So one theme in here is Thomas Mann is playing off Nietzsche's the death of tragedy.
Yes.
Yeah, and in the death of tragedy, that's where you get this whole Apollonian Dionysian thing.
Okay.
And Nietzsche's argument is you have to balance the two. Mm-hmm. You need both of them. Mm-hmm. But Mann is basically arguing Dionysius kills without a higher order. I mean, maybe they're the same in a certain respect. That he's saying that if you lose law and order and rationale and discipline and civilization and all that kind of stuff, then the Dionysian side of things destroys you.
Okay, and then if you have a guy who has no experience with sort of swinging back and forth and creating some kind of balance, that finally at his age, he's going to let himself go full Dionysian. Well, it's not going to go well,
right?
And it did not.
Yeah. No, I have another question.
But he didn't go full Dionysian. He didn't even talk to the guy.
Well, that's true.
The
true.
kid.
It's
he
all
didn't
just
even
in his mind.
touch the kid. He had a chance to touch the kid, and he didn't.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point. So
it's all in his mind.
Yes, it's all in his mind. Yeah.
Artsy in his mind.
So
it's all
not
creative
as gross as you might think it
is. No. I mean, he doesn't say anything lusty. He never talks about a stirring in his loins.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's nothing
like that. But it's all just in his head. So I got to ask you this question: why did Mann choose for Auerbach, however you say his name, for his obsession to be a young boy rather than a young girl?
Because he could have told the same story.
He could have told the same story with a young girl, and it still would have been forbidden.
Right.
If it was a young girl.
I just think it just takes forbidden to the next level.
Yes, it does. And why was he doing that? Why was he trying to take forbidden to the next level?
Well, it depends on who you ask, and I mean, the answer you're going to get depends on who you ask. Some folks say, well, Mann did have homosexual proclivities, right? And he was somebody that,
but who didn't act on them, just like Aschenbach.
Yeah. Well, there's no proof that he didn't act on them, but in Mann's diary, he talks about
things analogous to this,
right?
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. Loving the male form,
right?
In that kind of way,
right?
So.
But originally, I just was like, I mean, that's why Michelangelo made David and not a woman, because male beauty was considered the peak of beauty, not female beauty.
Right?
In the Roman and Greek.
Right. In Greek culture, was a paideastry was common. It was what you did.
Well. Would you say we introduced this segment always with the great books of the great authors? Crowhill, great book.
No, I mean it introduces some very interesting things to think about.
Okay,
but
how about provocative?
It's provocative, definitely provocative.
Okay,
but would I recommend anyone read it? No, I would not.
I'll tell you, but the beauty of getting together and doing this, if I had just sat down and read it on my own, put it away, and got on with my life,
you wouldn't have talked about it at all.
I would just say like. Ick. But digging into it a little bit, I mean, it's got a lot of depth, and there's a lot to talk about.
You would have probably said, God, I hope nobody knows that
I read this.
It's like, oh my God, I read that on the train.
Right. Somebody must have saw it.
I put a paper cover on it too.
But I didn't know. I should have.
Well, there's absolutely extraordinary writing in here, right? I mean, my translation,
no question, he's a good writer.
And a great translator. This guy, David Luke. I don't know how many years, but it was very similar.
I just think the way that the novel is thread together in terms of what's hinted at in the beginning, and how it comes back in the end. I mean, just structurally,
it's incredibly well done.
Yeah,
structurally well done. The language is very good in terms of just like giving it technical marks. It's an A+ in technical marks.
But you're saying in terms of just like sheer enjoyment, not so much.
Yeah,
I would not put off my table reading Magic Mountain.
Right.
I'd go in it with eyes wide open.
All right. You better, because who knows what you're going to run.
All
right, gentlemen. Well, very good. Thank you.
All
good
right.
times.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.